Of all the countries that made Grindhouse cinema an international affair, none grabbed audiences like the movies from Hong Kong. A bizarre mix of traditional Chinese legends and American-styled action filmmaking, from Wu-Tang Shaolin assassins to twisted voodoo horror. Hong Kong films ain't nothing to fuck with. This time on Missing Reel.
The Grindhouse era of films weighed heavy with American, Italian, and Australian filmmakers. But perhaps there were no films in that period that had a more immediate impact on action film lovers around the globe than those made in Hong Kong. The cultural creativity of Chinese mystical legends and fighting styles were the staple of Chinese language films dating as far back as the 1920s. But it wasn't until the late 1960s that the mystical romantic fantasies drawn from the ancient stories gave way to a more colorful acrobatic violence, brought about for the most part by the emergence of the legendary Shaw Brothers studios. Together with the famed director Sheng Shui and the man who would become one of the most prolific and recognized stars of the Grindhouse Kung Fu epic, former swimming champion Jimmy Wang Yu, the Shaw Brothers brought the legend of the one-armed swordsman to modern audiences. With the dawning of the 1970s, several old guard ideas of Hong Kong film disappeared. The dominant Cantonese language films were overtaken by Mandarin Chinese as filmmakers embraced the access to the West afforded by the British rule over predominantly Mandarin-speaking Hong Kong. As more screen time became devoted to combat sequences, the highly trained actors were replaced in starring roles by the more athletic martial arts practitioners. The Shaw Brothers continued to be the vanguard of Hong Kong action cinema, with groundbreaking films like The Boxer from Shantung. But Shaw wasn't the only studio that carried the standard for Hong Kong martial arts films. An emerging production company by the name of Golden Harvest landed a young man who had undeniably become the biggest star in the history of kung fu action film. With the release of The Big Boss in 1971, Bruce Lee would stake out an immovable place in film history. The unbelievably transcendent charisma of Bruce Lee would capture the attention of Western audiences. In 1973, Lee and his partners at Golden Harvest would release the first ever U.S.-Hong Kong co-production, and quite possibly the most famous martial arts film in history.
Enter the Dragon.
With Bruce Lee's untimely death in July of 1973, an offshoot of the martial arts film known as Lee-sploitation films were produced, with movie companies playing on Lee's popularity by casting look-alike actors with sound-alike names. Meanwhile, the Shaw Brothers continued to create martial arts masterpieces. A series of films about a one-armed boxer starring Jimmy Wang Yu culminated in one of the most bizarre and captivating films of the era.
He comes from beyond time, from beyond the outer limits of your imagination. He's the master of the flying guillotine. And he's ready to blow your mind. With more nerve-shattering special effects than you have ever seen before. It's a trip into a world where warriors from the ends of the universe meet in combat that knows no boundaries. A world where silent soldiers of death try everything in their power to conquer the most gruesome weapon ever conceived. See special visual effects filmed entirely in Super Cinevision as the master of the flying guillotine encounters the most amazing creatures in this or any world. As he experiences the most spectacular adventures the mind can imagine. The master of the flying guillotine.
Only one practitioner of Kung Fu ever came close to rivaling the popularity of Bruce Lee. After serving as an apprentice stuntman on Lee vehicles like The Big Boss and Fists of Fury, a young Jackie Chan was part of the Lee-sploitation subgenre of films cast in New Fists of Fury in 1976. But early on, it was apparent to everyone that Chan possessed his own innate charisma and a fighting style heavy on acrobatics and comedy.
Damn it! The widow greeting her lover. Go on, go on. Sitting on the toilet.
Encapsulating this genre of the Grindhouse era with anything nearing a thorough examination would take hours. The list of names alone, stars such as Sammo Hung and Gordon Liu, and directors like Lo Wei cannot be overlooked. Modern practitioners of serious martial arts action such as Jet Li or Donnie Yen, and actor-directors of action comedies like Stephen Chow continue the legacy of their predecessors. More of a concurrent reality than a simple genre of the Grindhouse era, the films of Hong Kong action cinema redefined how unarmed combat would be portrayed well outside of the limitations and boundaries of China, and will continue to influence the wide-open thrill of action movies in general for generations to come.